Hi, my name is Renee Hobbs, and welcome to EDC 534. Today's date is Wednesday. I guess it really is Wednesday, February 6th. It's 7 p.m. Eastern Time here in Florence, Italy. It is 1 a.m. on February 7th. So my time is a little bit off, but I'm dealing. I'm here for a conference on disinformation and propaganda that's being sponsored by the European Parliament. With the European Parliament elections coming up, the EU is, I mean, let's be honest, they're worried about the future of the EU, right? So we're going to spend a day with some policymakers and tell them how or whether media literacy and digital literacy can be part of the solution. And I'll get to learn a lot. So I'll let you know next week what I've learned, but it should be fun. But tonight we have an absolutely wonderful class. I'm really excited for tonight's session. So the theme of our class is critical and creative, right? And give me a thumbs up if you can actually see the if you can see the screen. Is that screen coming up for you? Good show. So really the agenda is that we are going to be critical and creative tonight. And I'll show you how we're gonna do that. We're gonna make some media in just 1 hour. So I was really pleased with the work that you've been doing on the path right. And of course, one of the things I think is interesting is that each of you are making your way through the choices that are involved in this class. And so I'm really pleased to see how you are making sense of the readings and how you are interpreting the material that you have been, presented with. I wanted to call out a couple of comments that are especially relevant to tonight's session. And so you can see I've built a little PowerPoint deck where I just put a couple of quotes from some of you who, as you were responding to the readings, touched on topics that I want to explore more deeply tonight. Welcome, Michelle. So now
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Now I see we have Michelle, Lynn, Kathleen, Lauren, Pam, and Scott. And am I missing anybody? Oh, yeah, I think I have you. And who's Joe's iPad? Oh, here, let me hear. Joe's iPad, unmute your microphone. Because I can't quite see.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Who are you?
Jessica.
Hi, Jessica. Great.
Hi. I'm on my dad's iPad.
All right, that's cool. That's wonderful. Glad you're here. So I just wanted to showcase a couple of ideas that some of you wrote about last week because of how they're related to the themes of this week. So Lauren, in responding to that marvelous piece by Candace Dorr-Stevens, wrote, so much of teaching high school English revolves around the concept of identity. We study it when we read the classics, when we write, trying to find our voice. We talk about societal expectations and pressures and how kids so often feel trapped by what they are supposed to be. As students choose images, songs, words, and arrange them to highlight new meaning or representation, they have the power to author themselves, says the author. This type of production not only deepens their own understanding, but it helps them connect with others and challenge existing beliefs and stereotypes. So one of the things that I think is going to come up in tonight's class is, as we think about the relationship between critical and creative, the issue of identity is inevitably going to be kind of right there in both of those processes. Lynn, when you were writing about Karen Festa, she's the elementary school teacher doing digital and media literacy in Narragansett Elementary School, you wrote, I find this sentiment about mistakes and risk-taking to be applicable in all areas, not just teaching or taking classes, but special meaning to me when thinking about teaching practices in my professional life. One of the best teaching moments I ever had came out of something that didn't go the way I had originally intended. I just want to like underline that. I feel like all of my best teaching ideas came from things that didn't go the way I originally intended. So that just made me feel really happy. And I think tonight's class is going to be kind of part of that. And Cynthia, you were reflecting on the Create to Learn book and addressing this issue of media influence, right? Kids who are thought to be more vulnerable to negative influence from existing media influence. But you say, you know, this is true not just for children, but for all of us. And then you describe your cultural identity from being from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and you write about the way that people have these feelings like it's a super dangerous place, and you know, everywhere you look, you're going to get, you know, mugged or whatever. And your awareness of the negative stereotypes is part of how you understand the potential of media influence. So I was really, really pleased with the reflective writing that you did for the readings this week. And I thought, what better way to explore the topic of critical and creative than to essentially do a Leap One project as a collaborative team. So that's what we're going to do in the next 30 minutes. We're going to create a Leap One project working together as a collaborative team. I've chosen this mentor text, right? But before I do that, before I take you any further on this journey, let me just go back up, because I want to review Leap One since it's due next week, right? And since we're going to model the process this week, so I think between the modeling that we do tonight and questions that you have, you'll feel really confident moving forward with your Leap One project. Now, so this assignment asks you to choose a mentor text that interests you and develop a critical analysis of it using your interpretation of the work as informed by selected concepts from the reading. So I've chosen this meme about math and video games as my mentor text, right? And what is a mentor text in the context of this class and this project, in context of digital authorship? A mentor text is any work of communication that is used to inspire or generate creative work. Okay, it should be relevant, interesting, and important to you, but it can be any work of communication that is used to inspire or generate creative work. In this Leap One project, you have to produce some media, and you're kind of limited. You can produce a blog post with all the conventions and norms associated with a blog post, an academic blog post. You can compose a short video, or you can compose a podcast. Tonight, we're going to compose a podcast, okay? So whatever medium you choose, your creative work should provide a summary and a critical analysis of the mentor text, developing an interpretation of the work as informed by the concepts from the readings. So the larger purpose of this dialectic between critical and creative is to see how questioning a work inspires new ideas, generates creative work. So you may want to consider those 5 critical questions. And then when you complete your project, your target audience is really members of this class. And when you complete your project, you'll upload the work to your blog and tweet a link using the EDC 534 hashtag. And because part of the criteria of evaluation is that you should try to use at least one concept or idea from the readings that help you offer original insight onto the work. I wanted to model that process tonight. Okay. Now, before I go any further, do you have any questions about Leap One? Okay, you might later, but in the meantime, why don't, oh yes, Lauren, I see your hand is raised. Thank you.
So I was wondering, I had found, I love Jennifer Gonzalez's Cult of Pedagogy. So I'm a loyal follower on Twitter. I found a 3.5-minute clip of her talking about some different teacher tools and teacher tech. Would something like that be appropriate?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
If it inspires your building upon analyzing and creating new, then that's all it has to do. It has to be meaningful to you, right?
Okay,
so
thank you.
Sounds like it qualifies. Any other questions about Leap One? All right, well, let's do a critical analysis working together, okay? So I've done a little scaffolding so that we can do it in just 30 minutes. So I'm not sure how great our critical analysis will be doing it in a fast way, but we're going to work together so that will make it more fun. Now, I'm going to be modeling the use of a podcasting tool, the simplest podcasting tool I've ever used, called Anchor FM. And I can access Anchor FM on my laptop. Here you can see the episode that I'm working on that needs your participation. And even cooler, it's got an interface on my cell phone that's super easy to use. So I'm going to stop sharing right now, and I'm going to show you my Anchor FM app, right? So to start us off, I created the opening moments of the podcast, right? So what's going to happen is I've pre-produced the opening of the podcast, and then I've designed a set of questions for us to discuss, which I will be recording on my voice recorder right here, right? And then I will upload the recorded voices. All we'll hear is your voices, right? My voice and your voices. And then I'll upload that to the finished product, and I'll produce a podcast in just 30 minutes. Okay, so are you guys ready to hear my opening? Now, just realize this is not National Public Radio. This is a low-cost, cheap, very basic thing. But I think it captures the spirit. It says here, preview the episode. Let's listen.
Hi, I'm Renee Hobbs, and welcome to another episode of Teaching About Propaganda. Tonight, I want to critically analyze a very peculiar meme that I saw recently. It really grabbed my attention.
Okay, so let's now turn to the first question that I'd like you to answer. Let me put the share screen on. We're looking at this meme here, which I think you guys can all see. It says, I don't need math. I'll just make video games when I grow up. The first question is, how does this meme make you feel? And now I'm going to start on my Anchor FM by opening up a tool, and it says here, I can record, I can pull something from the library, that means from my voice recorder. I can use a bunch of sound effects and interludes, but right now I'm just gonna record. We're gonna go around the room, and in a very short phrases or sentences, I'd like you to contribute your answer to this question. How does this meme, give me a thumbs up if you're cool with this. You know what we're doing. right? You know what we're doing, right? Okay, cool. So the first question is, how does this meme make you feel?
I'll start. It makes me feel a little confused, I guess, with like the intention of this is, because it could be tongue in cheek and silly and point out that, you know, you would need math to create video games, or it could just be really uninformed.
Thanks for sharing. Who's next?
I'll jump in. I think for me, I look at this and I'm a little sad because I think it's really reflective of what I hear so often at school when kids don't feel connected to their learning. So it's a little sad, a little disappointing.
Thanks for sharing. Who's next? How does this meme make you
I'll
feel?
go. I'll go. I agree with, was it Lauren that just spoke? I totally agree with that sentiment too. For being in the classroom and hearing kids talk about their frustrations with what they're learning and how they think it's not applicable to them and they're not going to use it. That's frustrating for me as a teacher, definitely.
Gosh, so this meme makes teachers feel frustrated. Other emotions that might be evoked by seeing this meme?
I'll jump in. Go ahead.
Sorry. I had a student show me a meme today, and I never heard of it. And I'm usually pretty on top of like seeing trends of memes, and you know, I'm amazed what I think I see, and this kind of goes back to the media literacy, which is I only see within my own bubble of what I think I see versus what teenagers go after. And there's this one that's called E. It's just E meme. And so even if you do an image search on Google and you type in the letter E, the very first autofill will say E meme. And so it's amazing how this thing kind of just takes off. And one of the things that I would, if I were to show this meme to my students, they wouldn't look at this as a meme. It's too clean. Like there's a grittiness to memes that you know it's been chewed over and repurposed and all that. And that's just because it's fresh in my mind of what I saw today, is that this is there's something gritty, I think, about the memes that where our students find theirs.
Aha, so this actually sounds like you are recognizing maybe this meme is not for students.
Yeah, no, we're okay with it, but students, they wouldn't even look. This wouldn't even cross a threshold of them looking at it as a meme. They would probably see this as a kind of an ironic motivational poster. Like their memes are much more obviously made in a way that's you know, just them playing around with their phone and a meme generator.
Ah, very nice. And I like how you now have given it a genre label, an ironic motivational poster. Other comments on this? We're trying to just respond at first, just emotionally. How does this meme make you feel?
I would say it makes me feel both frustrated and curious. The curious part is about if this were supposed to represent an actual thing that's happening in classes with kids at this age who are thinking they don't need math, that I guess there's a bit of you know, why is that and why aren't they being shown the connection between math and making video games? Or why isn't somebody talking to them about the shelf life of making video games?
Got it. Cool. Thanks for sharing. Okay, here is our next question. What do you see and read in this meme? So now we're kind of demonstrating our reading comprehension. And remember, we're doing a podcast, so our listeners, they don't know what the hell we're talking about, right? So what do you see in this meme? Who wants to describe it?
I'll go. I think the image of the student sitting there, obviously struggling over some written work in front of him, holding his head. Again, it's kind of sad. He's obviously frustrated. That's just such a classic gesture of frustration. Your head in your hands, you know.
Nicely put. Anybody want to elaborate? What do you see in this meme?
Well, I see the level of math that's behind him, and I'm right there with him with my hand in my hair feeling frustrated. So I think the frustration is a great word, but I think, seeing math behind it makes it come alive more.
Thanks for sharing. Okay, so we've now got a good mental image of what this meme says. The words are printed in a particular kind of font, a very simple font. In big letters, we see, "I don't need math," exclamation point, and underneath, "I'll just make video games when I grow up," exclamation point. So let's talk about this question. What stereotypes are activated in this meme?
I think the stereotype of boys being into video games is promoted.
I'll add, because I don't need math is in big letters, you can almost fill anything underneath. I'll just make video games when I grow up. Could be any other option besides taking math would work, maybe.
Good point.
And I think is the element of video games are creative and there's no mathematical or analytical piece that would go with them.
Although there's kind of like the anti-stereotype of the boy not being good at math when, I mean, it could have been a picture of a girl not being good at math. And
I thought about that too, yeah.
And it's even a boy with a plaid shirt and glasses. So, I would say that that's more usually a stereotype of a nerd rather than like it's not some punk, looking kid with a mohawk or, shaved head or purple hair.
Also, it looks like he's actually trying. So
I would say too, the use of the exclamation points on both statements kind of show the casual, like, I don't need this, and the kind of the bold and oversimplified way that a student might approach something like that. So I thought that use of the punctuation was interesting.
That's great. It's a stereotypical punctuation. Love it. Yes, it's exactly what you might expect a kid to actually, how a kid might actually write. Wow, great work on looking at stereotypes that are activated in this meme. Now let's.
Is the other stereotype maybe, Renee, like that? I don't know. So was this Generation Z? I'm trying to remember what this generation is, that they don't have the academic disposition and stamina to even make the bridge to go from what is their curiosity to the actual, legitimate academic chops to make those realities happen too. I think that's the other stereotype, that like the kids, they're too much in their video games. They don't care enough about anything, so they just give up.
Nice, that generational stereotype that is so stuck in their habits that they can't even make the connection. Nice point. Good show. Okay, so let's then tackle this question. Accurate or inaccurate? Math skills are not needed to be a video game maker. Is that accurate or inaccurate? We're kind of doing a reality check on this meme. What's your perception of that?
Inaccurate.
Why?
Because there's a lot of math that would have to go into the making of any video in some ways, but especially video games, algorithms, and all kinds of higher level math, I think.
Yeah, unless they're like marketers for the video game company, if they think that they're going to be in the animation and where they have to even consider things like the speed of how these graphics are rendered, that's math. I mean, there's a lot going on there. Even arguably some of the logic that it takes to create the puzzles within the games themselves require some type of mathematical forethought with that. So in order for it to be the type of game that they like, I think it has to have that type of creativity in it that it actually does come from math.
Great point. Other
And
thoughts on this?
I guess it's like, what do you think math is? I hear from like the middle schoolers at my school say a lot, when am I going to need math? When am I going to use the Pythagorean theorem? But if to you math is following a formula to get the right answer, then okay, I can see why maybe you don't see how video games need math. But if math is solving problems in creative ways, then absolutely you need math to create video games.
Nice. So you're unpacking, it depends on what is math, right? What are the practices involved in math? Procedural thinking, problem solving, for sure. But the Pythagorean theorem, maybe not, maybe. All right. Other thoughts on accurate or inaccurate? All right, let's press on. How might students and teachers interpret this meme differently? We're using kind of a thought experiment here. How might teachers and students interpret this meme differently?
I think students might look at this and say, yes, exactly. They might really feel connected to it, some of them.
Mm-hmm.
They won't see the irony in it yet. Maybe as readily as teachers.
And I think teachers, as so many of you have expressed, feel sad by his response and his feelings.
Good point. So,
Or angry or frustrated.
yeah. And what emotions might students feel about this? So Brian has suggested students might go meh because this might not resonate at all. Can you imagine other emotions that students might experience in responding to this meme?
I'd like to say some students might be upset. There might be some good math students who see this and they fall into that stereotype where everybody hates math, and they kind of see it as a negative attack on them. Maybe.
Great point. Great point. So the math lovers are going to be frustrated and angry by the activation of this stereotype. Okay. Now, oh yes.
Well, I would say even maybe the students who are like true lovers, like love video games. I think if you love video games, it's very clear the nuances and how intricate those designs are, and so maybe they would pick up on the irony of this.
Good point. Video game aficionados might recognize how ridiculous and oversimplified this statement is. Nice point. Okay, well,
I would argue there's probably a meme there's probably meme formats that would show that. Like, so if this one is the one where, like, I don't need this, there's the one where there's the Kermit the Frog that's like slowly sipping tea that's like basically I told you so, right? So like that would be like the way that would be, I think it would have more resonance with the student.
Right. And so in some ways that you're leading to my next question. I wanted to figure out who made this meme, and that's really difficult with memes, right? Memes are very hard to figure out ownership or authorship. In fact, the concept of authorship is somewhat irrelevant when it comes to memes, because by their very nature, they are repurposed and remixed and remade. But I did a simple Google image search. That is, I took this image and I popped it into the Google image search, and I found a book cover where it appears the meme came from, a book called Learning Disability, Uncover the Myths, right? So knowing that, we can make some inferences about who made this meme. What are your thoughts on that? And how does seeing the book cover reshape your interpretation of the meme? Who made this message? Who made this meme?
There might be a couple layers to that, which is is the original picture just a model being used for clip art, right? You know, that, or not clip art, but like, you know, the type of things that you would just kind of get. So like that, so we're not actually seeing a young boy who was in the moment suffering because of his frustrations with meth, but knowing that the where it originally came from was to assist and bring empathy and knowledge or understanding to learning disabilities. I could see how that would kind of prevent a discomfort now, knowing that the person who made the meme would then think, did I inadvertently, you know, step on and appear to be insensitive to the source material?
But I agree that it doesn't, seeing this book cover doesn't necessarily tell us who made the meme. Like, you know,
Indeed.
if you just put in a search for, you know, image of kid, you know, with head in hand, this might pop up. So,
as a form of stock photography, right?
yeah.
Okay, so maybe this is stock photography. It was bought by the publisher for the book cover, and it was used by the meme maker, right? Okay, so we just have to guess, don't we? We really don't. We have to make an inference about the meme maker's purpose. What's your guess? Why was this meme created? What's it trying to say? What's it?
I didn't notice the punctuation until Lauren pointed it out, and I think that reveals some irony to it. Like, I don't think it's, I think the purpose is to point out that video games require math. I think that's part of it.
And the clue that you're referencing, Michelle, is the exclamation point.
Yeah.
Intriguing. Other thoughts on this? Okay, I'm taking that as assent. That we like Michelle's interpretation. All right, now this is a really complicated question. In the remix chapter of Create to Learn, which I am using as a reference since we are analyzing a meme, we have to talk about the virality and the shareability of memes. So here's my question to you. Would you share this meme with your social network? Why or why not?
I think I might just as a way to start a conversation, you know, to see what other people feel about it, or whether people have similar experiences, either with their students in a class or with their kids at home.
So you might share it to start a conversation. Lynn, would you share this meme with your social network? Why or why not?
I have obviously I have a great deal of people on my social network are teachers, and I think that they would see the irony in it and laugh. It would be interesting to bring in front of students, though, perhaps not on social media, and talk about it. But definitely, I think my teacher friends would get a little chuckle out of it.
Aha!
As like yeah.
So if you wanted to entertain your teacher friends in your social network, this might create that a little bit of humor. Thanks for sharing. Other perspectives. Would you share this to your social media network? Why or why not?
I wouldn't, mainly because I have a mix of teachers, parents, colleagues on my social media network. The only way I would share it would be with a qualifying statement. I would have to put something first, maybe kind of showing my interpretation or my position to show where I stand, so that I wouldn't be looking to perpetuate any stereotypes, offend anyone. So I'd be careful about that.
So would you be concerned that the ironic tone might not be understood by all of the people in your network?
I think it would fly right over some heads. So I would really want to be specific.
I'm fascinated. Thank you so much for sharing that.
And for me to qualify why I would share it, not just because of my teacher friends, but they all know that I math was kind of my thing in teaching. So like they'd be like, oh, Lynn, you know, like we know how much you love math and how much you love promoting math to your students. So I think that they'd kind of pick up on that. So.
I very much appreciate that. So then it does speak to your own identity, right? They would recognize this as being a special topic of interest and concern to you. Okay, that's great. Now the hardest part of our job is ahead of us, but it's also the last thing we're going to do for the podcast. I thought it would be interesting to see if we could apply some ideas from Candace Dorn Stevens' article called "That's Not Something I Was, I Am, or Am Ever Going to Be, Multimodal Self-Assertion in Digital Video Production." And so what I've done is I've pulled a couple of quotes from the reading, and as you hear these quotes, I want you to see if you can figure out how could this scholarly article relate to this meme. Okay, so here we go. She writes, in other words, young media producers often sense intuitively that production of media content alone does not lead to communication. Rather, media content needs an audience, and popular culture resources can maintain that audience. She writes, interperformativity describes the hybrid performances in which actions simultaneously speak to multiple audiences in different timescales and different spaces. Observing the interperformativity of actions proves important to understanding the effects of various attention structures that occur within sites of engagement, where social practices, perhaps conflicting, intermingle. Such interperformativity reveals relationship building and identity positioning among multiple audiences. Oh, now that's some heavy stuff. How do these ideas relate to this meme?
I'm gonna jump in with some half-baked ideas.
Go for it.
I'm thinking of that last question about would you share this meme, and I'm thinking of the idea of context collapses, and how you can't control how different corners of your networks will interpret something that you share. And you know, you can either choose to let that stop you from expressing your gut reaction, or, you know, the gut feeling that you want to share something, or you can, you know, cautiously rethink that gut reaction of wanting to share it.
Yeah, I see you pulling on the thread of that idea. Media content needs an audience, right? And the complicating thing is, in a social media context, there are always layers of audiences, right? Sometimes with different understandings and interpretations that could cause context collapse. Wonderful. Thanks for making the effort. All right, keep going. I need to hear one more. What connections can you make between your reading of Candace Dorn, what's her last name? Stevens, and this crazy meme?
Well, I have to say that when I read that article, and that part particularly about, it's not just about production, but the created products need an audience, really made me think about a lot of video production and media production in schools right now, where it sometimes doesn't get much of an audience. And I think that piece especially is really important, and to allow students the ability to create things that they can actually share with whatever their popular culture resources are is an important piece.
Nice. So in some ways, we've transformed our understanding of this meme through a collaborative dialogue where we've critically analyzed the meme and we've used it to generate some ideas about teaching and learning in math, in problem solving, in youth media making and production, in stereotypes, and in the relationship between students and teachers when it comes to the topic of video games and math. I'm Renee Hobbs, and I've been talking to the students of EDC 534, the seminar in digital authorship. Thanks so much, Scott, Lauren, Lynn, Jessica, Pam, Kathleen, Michelle, and Brian for joining me on this call tonight. Stay tuned for our next episode of Teaching with Propaganda. In the meantime, thanks for joining us. Bye. Okay, let's give ourselves a little applause. Okay, so I have probably 2 or 3 more steps now. That was 12 minutes. That's way too long. So what I'm going to do is go through the app, and what it lets me do is it lets me break up that 12 minutes into little chunks. So I'm going to find the coolest chunks and bundle them together, and then I'll put the finished product up on the website for you to listen to. But I think that in some ways, doing that probably gives you a lot of clarity about the Leap One experience. And so can we take just a few minutes and see if you now have any questions about Leap One?
I would just say that I was doing a little bit of searching on the site, and I see that you have a lot of tools available. I'm assuming that Anchor One is there under audio recordings, and there are lots of others available.
I think for the first project, if podcasting is new to you, Anchor FM is great. If you're new to video production, Spark is just the easiest and the simplest and the most fun. And if you're old school and doing a blog, that's cool too. Just remember to use all the conventions of the blog post. Hyperlinks, images, subheads. And that in chapter, or whatever chapter on blogging, I can't remember what chapter that is now. I don't bring my book to Italy with me, but you'll find some ideas about that. Yeah, so one of the things that's really cool is I thought this was a very generative conversation, and I think it, you know, the pedagogy really proves it, right? So we ended up having a pretty wide-ranging set of ideas coming from this very simple text, right? We discovered that this text wasn't so simple as we might have thought it was. All right, let's take a look at what's on tap for next week. I only have a few things for you because I know you're going to be working on your Leap One project, but I did want to take a look at those now. So let's go to the Pathright. So for next week, the topic is digital storytelling. Yay! So we're going to be reading and commenting using PDF digital annotation. So in this activity, you participate in an online reading community by reading, highlighting, commenting, and questioning the text, reading the comments of others, and replying to others. You have a choice of what to read. You can choose to read Kearney's scholarly article called A Learning Design for Student-Generated Digital Storytelling. You can read Amy Storniulo and Ebony Thomas's article, Restoring as Political Action, Authoring Resistance Through Youth Media Arts. or you can read the American Library Association's StoryCorps at your library. So when you click on these links, you can use the Kami for Chrome PDF annotation tool. Give me a thumbs up if you've used the Kami for Chrome PDF annotation tool before. Thumbs up if you've used that tool before. No? No. Oh, well, you guys are in for a treat. Okay, so Kami is a free annotation tool. When you log on the first time, it's going to ask you for your email. It's built into the Chrome browser, so it does work really well with Chrome. And here's how it works. Anyone who clicks on that link becomes a member of our reading community. And you can see these on the black bar on the far left side. You can use these tools, like here, this highlighting tool. You can select a text like this and like use the highlight tool. Let's see, I'll try pink this time to highlight it. And it shows up in pink, right? Now with the comment tool, that's this thing right here, the comment tool, you can make a comment in the margins and reply to the comments of others and reply to the comments of the comments, okay? And see how that shows up there on the side margins. You can use the drawing tool, that's this guy right here, to make lines on the text, right? And you can make a text box on the document. So what's going to happen is, if you choose to read this article, you're going to try to make 2 highlights, 2 comments, and what was the other one? I forget now. Hold on, let me go back to that. 2 highlights, 2 comments, and 2 questions, right? So it's really an active reading activity. If you want, you can reply to the comments of others. So that should be fun, right? There's something really interesting about the idea of leaving a trail as you read. You know, I'm a big fan of marking up books. People who come to my house and look on in my bookshelf are constantly like flipping things open going, holy shit, you've written all over this book, Renee. And it's like, yep. So this is that, except we're doing it collaboratively, right? So that should be fun. And these 3 have orientations too. So you're free to choose the one that you think makes the best sense to you. Then the second activity, is a read, create to learn. And after reading, make a connection to your life. After reading, describe an idea, instructional practice, or concept from the reading that has practical relevance to your work and life. We're reading about infographics, and we're reading about reflection and taking action, infographics and data visualization, video production, and animation. So see if you can find something in one of those chapters that has a practical relevance to your life, and you put the answer there. So this is a pretty modest amount of work, because a week on Friday the 15th, when it's due by midnight, you'll be posting your LEAP blog. Then you'll be tweeting a link to your LEAP 1 using the hashtag EDC534 so that members of our class can see it. Pam, so far you and I have been dominating the Twitter chat room, and I'm really grateful for some cool posts. You reminded me that Tiffany Schlane, the filmmaker who made the Declaration of Interdependence, her father was a media literacy guy, right? So I was really grateful for you to share that with us. So thanks for that. So I'm gonna be able to find your LEAP 1, because when I click on the EDC 534 hashtag, your work will be there. All right, so I think that's what I have for you tonight. We made a podcast. We got kind of geared up for you to go off on a cool adventure and create something amazing for next Friday. And the topic of digital storytelling is going to launch us into the next phase of the course. So do you guys have any questions before I let you go?
I just have a quick question about the blog. Are we supposed to create a blog in WordPress? Is that where we're putting it?
You are free to create a blog in any blog software that you choose. When you send me a link, I put your blog here on the class roster. And so right now I've only gotten 3 blogs from Lauren, Pam, and Brian. I'm hoping to get your blogs by Friday of this week. But you can choose to use a really simple blog, or like Wix or WordPress, or you can choose to use Weebly. At the Create to Learn website, I have put up what I think are the 3 easiest blogs. They're the ones that produce a relatively elegant looking blog in 15 minutes or less. So if you go to the design studio at createtolearn.online, at the design studio, let's see here, blogs and websites. So I think I've identified 3 that are my personal favorite tools for basics of blogging: WordPress, Weebly, and Wix. Right? So those would be 3 I would feel really comfortable sharing with you. Oh, Lynn, you emailed me my blog, but I didn't see it up. Okay, I'm going to make it. Thank you for letting me know. I see you in the chat there. And I also see note Brian's yes, yes, no from reply all is a nice rhetorical analysis of memes. Love how you're feeding us and sharing resources, Brian. It's really a great feature of your work in this class. And another podcast tool. So I'm going to just I'm going to copy those things in the chat room so I don't lose them. Thanks for sharing. Other questions or comments that you have before I let you go? All right, you guys managed all the way to 8 o'clock at night, and me all the way to 2 a.m. I can't wait to be back on East Coast time next Wednesday night with you guys. So I'll see you then. Ciao.
Yeah, have a safe trip back.
Ciao. Ciao, amici.
Ciao.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.